So Blaine, this week I was thinking about some of the other questions that a runner might have. And one of the questions that I think really we might want to consider as a runner, especially as we get into the fall and winter seasons, is the idea that sometimes you run on surfaces that may not always be clear. Like, for example, our surface right here behind us right now, we have a bunch of leaves. They've got frost on them. This morning it's a little bit more slick than normal. And I think sometimes as runners, we want to make sure that we can continue to run for a long time. So, what are your thoughts on the different surfaces as a physical therapist and some of the things that you might have seen with your runners?
Yeah, so avoiding injuries. This is a great example of a slippery surface. So, and the slippery surfaces are of course going to be like this, like we have frost over the leaves, or we have of course snow and ice. So you just want to assess the risk and really be careful. Make sure you have good footwear. Maybe use more of a trail shoe than a running shoe if you know you're going to be on that. And then you can put crampons on your shoes, which are little rubber devices that go around and put little spikes on the bottom of your shoes.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And perhaps a more practical thing, if your run includes several surfaces and maybe most of it's clear but you're approaching some slippery surfaces along the way, then it's always okay to just stop and walk. Sometimes we get really hyper focused on maybe we're timing our run with our watch, but you're going to get the same health benefits of the run even if you stop and walk a little bit. It's not going to wreck your training protocol.
Yeah. I'll put a little interjection in there. Part of the reason why Blaine and I met is because of that very instance. I was trying to do an interval and somebody walked out in front of me, and instead of slowing down and just letting things go and not worrying about hitting that last moment, it was that last interval, and I went off and got onto a very different surface than what I was running on, and it jarred my knee, and that actually is the reason why we met. So it's something to think about. That injury has been something that has kind of plagued me for almost 2 years now, and it's interesting to think all I had to do is just, you know what, I'm not going to get that last set in, or maybe I'll just go back and do it again. So.
Yeah, and it's easy, especially like for runners that kind of have the type A personality to let yourself do that, but it's okay to just stop and walk sometimes if you're lessening the risk.
Yeah. So let's talk about some surfaces. We talked about this one with the leaves and the frost, but there's some other surfaces that you might want to also consider. Crampons would be great if you've got snow on the ground or ice.
Mm-hmm.
What about water?
So water is, I mean, of course it depends if it's icy water or not, but if it's just water, then of course your sidewalks and your roads are going to be a little bit more slippery, so just be aware of that, especially when you're turning corners. So make sure it's well lit. If it's not well lit, there's a lot of headlamps you can wear while you're running that work great. But being able to see is important, and there's nothing wrong with getting your feet and your shoes a little bit wet while you're running, just as long as you don't let it give you a blister.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a bunch for watching, and we will catch you next week. Oh, wait, actually, you wanted to talk some more.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And then one other surface that we often see a lot of injuries from is not necessarily from a fall or a slip, it's just, pavement surfaces. And so when it's paved, it's a little bit harder of a contact than if you're running on gravel or dirt. And so that's just something you want to build up to gradually. Most marathons are run on the pavements, and you can build yourself up to that. But if you're used to running on soft surfaces or on treadmills, then all of a sudden you go hop on pavements, then that's an abrupt change, and we always try to avoid abrupt changes. So just build yourself up to it gradually.
Yeah. Actually, let's revisit that for a second. You've got a couple other surfaces that you might encounter year-round. Mud, or you might have some sort of gravel or dirt. And so any of those can be different as well. And if you're a trail runner, for example, the trail might be really, really narrow, and if you've got other people on that trail, there's something to consider about just, you know what, maybe you don't have to hurt yourself trying to get around that trail. Again, another injury that I've experienced is going down a hill. It wasn't on a trail, but going down a hill and rolling my ankle. That's definitely something that you can be concerned about. So.
Yeah, so when you're on trails, especially when you're going downhill, it's always good to slow down a little bit. It's kind of hard to do that if you're in a race. There is more risk when you're in a race, but if you're just training, it's okay to slow down and not put yourself at a huge risk, because a bad ankle sprain can put you out of your running game for for a long time, depending on the severity of the sprain.
Yeah. So awesome. Any other thoughts?
Not that I can think of for now.
All right. Well, it's still really cold out here. In the last video, we talked about how it was about 25 degrees, and I think we're going to go home. So thanks so much for watching, and appreciate your thoughts, Blaine.
Thank you, Greg.